Today's chat is brought to you by the support of all our Twitch subscribers. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through the Twitch platform, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focused Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a subscriber of the FFC and gaining access to some exclusive features over in the Discord server, please be sure to visit our Twitch account and click on the subscribe button. If you're an Amazon Prime member, remember that you do have a free subscription to Twitch every month that can be used for this. And for those of you who are already subscribers, thank you again for your generosity. You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search, focus that fire. And so we come together. Join us. Join the discussion. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat, recorded live on August 9th, 2019, over on twitch.tv/FocusedFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring the topic of the Menagerie. This particular episode will serve as what we lovingly call the introductory segment of the week's exploration. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who we all have with us on the show tonight. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86. Next up, we have our own master social media, the one and only Green-Eyed Music Lover. Green, I hope you're doing well. How has the week treated you so far?
I'm going to do something that I don't normally do. This week kind of sucked. I had somebody try to hack into my PSN account this morning, and the only reason I caught it is because I noticed an email, because, you know, PSN will send you out an email saying, hey, your thing has been successfully changed. If this is not you, please contact our support system. So I had that pop up this morning and had to call PSN customer service and get everything reverted back. And then when I tried to log on to my PlayStation account, I knew because I had to go change my password and everything that I would have to log in. That was fine. But when I went to log in, I was actually locked out because the person who had tried to get into everything had tried to enter the password in too many times and locked me out. So I had to reset my password again. Long story short, do the two-step verification if you have not already.
Always do two-factor. Yeah, always do two-factor authentication.
Yeah, so definitely please do that. You don't want to have to go through what I did today. It wasn't like customer service was great. PSN was great. I was in and out in 20 minutes as far as like getting everything reverted back to where it needed to be. Didn't have any grief from them at all for it. So they did well. Just make sure you're protecting yourself because they will get in there. Anyway.
Also change your password every 90 days as a general rule. And don't. Anyways, okay, before I get down that stint. Okay, and last but definitely not, sorry, that's part of like my job. And last but definitely not least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend AFracturedWinky, all the way from, man, like actually literally across the world nearly. Winky, how are you doing today-ish?
It's almost afternoon. It's a little late tonight. It's the weekend. I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me on.
Definitely. So as usual, I want to give us a bit of a rundown on where we can find you out in the world and the internet.
Okay, so literally everywhere. Just double checking.
He's in your closet right now.
Hey, Winky's everywhere. He's just everywhere.
AFracturedWinky on every social channel except for Blizzard because they couldn't fit 16 characters for some reason. So
fair enough.
Yep.
Excellent. So,
well, yeah, go for it, Green.
I was going to start off, because we're doing the new format and everything, we actually get to have a little bit of time to get to know our guests a little better. So I got some questions for you. We figured out where we can find you, but what is your favorite story in Destiny? What's your favorite piece of lore?
It's definitely the factions that haven't been expanded upon properly.
Okay.
Nice.
So we started to get somewhere towards the end of Destiny 1, learning more about the factions and what goes on with the, I forget the name of it. Is it the consortium?
Yeah, the consensus, yeah.
That's the one. And how all that works with the city politics. We started to get a bit more insight with that in Destiny 1, but it's sort of, floated away with Destiny 2 for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wanted to know more about the inner workings of how the city operates. And that was definitely an awesome door into it for me, including, I want to say Lysander. It's been a while since I said the name.
Yeah, for the Concordant.
Is that that one?
Yep.
We got a good look into
Nice.
the known history of him and his faction,
And his sparrow.
and his sparrow.
That was nice.
Bribing the Guardians.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But I am disappointed to have not seen any fleshing of that since.
Not
but
yet.
I'm still hopeful. Yeah.
I will say, after digging into audio files this week, I did find some interesting lines that are in the API that are not being used currently that are related to the faction. So
Ooh.
that is something I'm going to be digging into a little bit more, but there are ways, apparently. I am learning the ways of breaking into Destiny and finding the inner workings a little bit, but there are some things out there that we have not seen that they have in their back pocket if they choose to bring that back out. But
Would you say it's related or potentially related to faction rallies?
I don't know if I could say that with any sort of confidence because it's very generalized. These are just voice lines, so things that you hear in the tower a lot of times related to the factions, New Monarchy and whatnot, where they're kind of grumbling about things. So there's nothing that really stands out of this is a faction rally or this is us out in the wild and you're going to compete against these faction people. And there's nothing that's so far stands out, but I've got a very preliminary skimming of it at the moment. But here's my follow-up question. Which faction did you primarily follow?
I was a New Monarchy.
Yes.
Definitely.
Everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
My heart lies with New Monarchy, but my thirst for loot lies with Future War Cult.
Both good answers.
Both wrong, but both wrong. But I mean,
I mean, Hung Jury was the only thing that Dead Orbit had. Just saying. And the color scheme.
I pledged for a week just to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Hung Jury was so good.
Mm-hmm. So what got you into kind of diving into the lore a little bit?
When Destiny first came out, I had a desk job and I did have a lot of spare time. So I spent a lot of that spare time sitting at my computer and reading through the Grimoire cards on Bungie.net.
Nice.
I haven't had as much time since Destiny 2's come out due to different jobs, different city, etc., etc. But it was a deep dive. There was a lot more, I want to say, juice in the lore when it was Grimoire cards.
Mm-hmm.
But I was browsing the Destiny the game subreddit almost every day, reading all of everybody's lore theories back in the first couple of years of Destiny, and I never really contributed. I just like to see everybody's theories and thoughts. I still do.
Yeah, I will say this: the development of the new style of the book format, there's not as much theory crafting that can be done because we're getting semi-complete stories or at least semi-complete arcs now with the books.
There's less string on pin boards connecting what to what.
Yeah, I think the Thorn Quest, the stuff with Shin Malphur recently, we've been getting kind of a drawn-out revelation each time of what is going on, and you kind of get a feeling of what's going on, but the conclusion of it, it doesn't feel like there's too much more beyond it at this point that we need to find. But that is me. So, okay, last one. What class in Destiny do you play, and what subclass of that class do you play?
Warlock, and whatever kills a Titan better.
That's a fair answer. That's a fair answer.
Yeah. I mean, hunters you just need to look at and they fall over. But
yeah, that's pretty true at this point.
Yeah, it's I've always been Warlock. I've tried all classes. I have all classes, but every time I boot the game up, I start with Warlock, and I don't change over to the others unless I'm really, really bored.
You have certainly made our chat happy. They are excited that you're a Warlock because we don't generally have too many people who come on the show that will admit to being a Warlock because I don't know why. It's just we're just two hunters hanging out, having fun, talking, but there's a lot of warlock, I guess. I don't know,
Well, yeah,
slander or...
I mean, a lot of people are jealous of the warlock's good looks and
good looks. Okay, so then what race are you playing?
I can't remember at the moment. I had to restart my main character, who was a female human when I moved over to PC, and I think I'm a male human now.
Okay.
I think. But I always leave the helmet on.
Yeah. I haven't taken my helmet off in a long time either.
Don't worry, Shax does too.
Helmet.
I'm just glad it doesn't start to smell. So
I am a human male. I just checked. All right.
I have on my list of like questions to do to ask a crazy question, but at the moment I'm drawing a blank. So except for things that are pig related, thanks to top 3.
You're welcome.
I don't know. Yeah, Blue, do you have a crazy question that's related to anything we're talking about, or just what is the most absurd thing you've done in the last 6 months? We'll do something like that.
Is this a question for me, or
it is? And I'm going to make Blue answer it too.
Well, in the last 6 months, by one more month until it's too old to fit in that category, my wife was offered a job in the capital city of the state, and we just said yes, packed up, moved, and went looking for another job when we got here.
Oh, nice.
So she had a job, obviously, but it's not permanent full time. It is contract work, so there's still uncertainty there. But we made the move without as much security as we would have liked, but it's paying off at the moment. So definitely not something I have done before, and probably will never do again.
You also have kiddos too, so that makes it a little even more challenging.
Yeah, I've got an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Oh man, I could not imagine doing a cross-state move with a 2-year-old.
Luckily, it was only 200 kilometers, a 2-hour drive. But the move before that, which was nearly 3 years ago now, that was 800 kilometers, or a 9-hour drive.
Oh my goodness!
I only had one child at that point.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, that's Julie and I moved, and that was far enough and stressful enough with our 2 dogs. I could not imagine doing it with a child. Blue, do we have any special announcements this week?
No. No.
So
let me hang on. Do we think? No.
No. Okay. I get to do my question now?
Yes, you do get to do your question now.
Yay! Community question of the week, aka topic starter. So this week, the community question was related to Chalice, because we're talking about Chalice, and I like Chalice, but I don't like Chalice. And Chalice is kind of creepy and kind of silly and kind of really adult themed in the most weird of ways. But Chalice wants us to grow fat with strength as we play his twisted games. Do you think we are purely entertainment, cleaning house, or being groomed for something more? I had 156 votes. The community decided overwhelmingly that we are being groomed for something different. We had a variety of responses, starting with Man-at-Arms, who put, "Isn't this the same motivation as the witch who lived in the gingerbread house?" The scary thing is, he is not wrong.
That's amazing. As usual, but
oh my, yeah. A lot of people I can't get past it. I'm like trying to go professionally past this, but my head keeps getting stuck on the fact that Chalice is bringing us into his house, and one of us is going to get shoved in his oven sometime, which is really awkward. Anyway, Beard actually says, I don't think that he even actually knows. He just wants to feel like he matters in the universe, which may be the case. Chalice is that person that sees his end coming, but instead of acting all sad, he just wants to party and flash his power, acting as though he'll bring the universe happiness before the end, when in reality, he's just another wannabe that we could end any times. That was from Remy. And Ziona, with her usual sass, said, "Food, we are food." Oh god, he's the Cabal version of the Drifter. Stop eating everything, you creeps. You don't know where that warlock has been.
Get in my belly.
Yeah, so everyone's got the consensus of either we're being groomed or we're going to get eaten, which, considering some of the voice lines that Werner has delivered as well as Chalice, I can see why that's a legitimate fear. What do you guys think? Do you think we're gonna get being groomed for something more? Or
I just wish I had the audio clip of Potato gagging.
Oh God. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
He's fattening us up
I wanna...
like pigs.
What about you, Winky? Do you think we're being groomed for something more?
I'm honestly not that interested in Chalice, and I've never put too much thought into it. Just enjoying the loot as it comes my way. But everybody seems to have some pretty good points. Like as you mentioned, somebody replied that Chalice is just a weakling and we could kill him at any moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with that one, because Chalice definitely has put trials in front of us that weren't easy for Guardians in general.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still yet to meet the man, but I imagine that the man would have to be more powerful than his trials, no?
Perhaps. We don't even know if he's still a cabal anymore. That was one of the things we had discussed a couple of weeks ago. Is the fact that is he still in a physical form?
Mm-hmm. Well, and we also know that he has some power behind him because of what happened with was it Argo? When I mean he actually managed to teleport us out and save us. So I mean, I'm gonna double down with what Winky's saying on that. Is like, you know, that takes some power. Now, whether or not it's, you know, consistent power or what, he does have access to a reservoir of sorts. We do know that.
On that particular moment of rescue, though, could it not just be an inner ship transmat system, similar to how we get in?
But what I'm
saying,
ships? Yeah. But I mean, even so, you know, it does indicate that he has access to that, and whether it's technology or magic or whatever, it does. Yeah. It is a component that is a tool set that he has. Is what I'm saying. It's like even if it's not him, you know, teleporting us, it's, you know, something on his ship or something like that. He is still in control of it, because he can augment and aim that particular. It's like, you know, any weapon, if you will. A weapon, the owner of the weapon is still they assume the power of that weapon, power. Right? Yeah. Yes. So it's like, even though it's not like, you know, with Oryx and the Taken King scene where he blasts everything with the paracausal blast from the ship, you know, it augmented his power. So like, could he do it by himself? I mean, you could debate that maybe, but it doesn't matter because he had the amplifier that was the Dreadnought, and that then tells everyone, you know, this is his power. So similar to Chalice and the Leviathan, right? He has the Leviathan, he has the Menagerie, he has all these these creatures that he's somehow populated the Menagerie with. You know, same as Prison of Elders. You know, the Queen is and so that all flows up to him as being the owner, the ruler, the wielder of that particular accumulated power.
What do you think? What do you think, Blue? Beyond the grooming question or the cleaning house type thing, what does he really want with us on the Leviathan at this point?
I think, you know, reading the Chronicon and reading the commentaries and, you know, the little bit of the Menagerie that I've managed to get through, and the information that I've done for this episode, as well as just like out of my own curiosity, the way that they have Chalice structured, and we'll get into this definitely, but like the way that they have Chalice's presence in the game structured, and the terminology that they use with like the Menagerie, the Leviathan, all these different loyalists, you know, all these different things. And then you have like the story with the Chronicon where you can kind of see the self-fulfilling prophecies that they're trying to set up. You know, and a lot of people kind of joke and make fun of that, but it also does give you an insight into, you know, that character's mindset of like what they want. And I think that's I think Chalice is kind of blunt. Like he's not really, I mean, he's hiding stuff. Yes, he is definitely hiding things, but it's not like, you know, Savathun or, you know, all these like machinations, blah, blah, blah. Chalice is just hiding things because, you know, he might have a more basic plot that he wants to get through. But like, as far as like his end goal, I think he's honestly kind of told everybody what his end goal is. I mean, he's kind of come out just come out and said, I want to be there at the end to witness this, and I want the strongest and the best of the best to be there with me. And he sees that in the Guardian, or the Guardians, predominantly the Guardian, because of, you know, the traitor's fate, because of our role in enacting that upon Gaul. In all of our trials and errors that he's thrown at us, they are tempering. They are catalysts, or they're crucibles, if you will, through which, you know, our strength and our ability to persevere is tested. And as long as we're surviving, he's going to continue rewarding that as, you know, it is very narcissistic. It's very, very stereotypical aristocratic, you know, attitude. But it also, I think it's pretty honest, air quotes, honest, in the sense that he's pretty true to what he's saying as far as like his goals so far. Like I haven't seen anything with Chalice that's like, gotcha. Like it's not, he hasn't really done that.
He does seem like a boisterous and feels untouchable sort of.
Right. Well, and you get like, and
he doesn't care about letting his plans know because
the arrogance or pride or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
That one. Huh. Rather than any sort of conniving or scheming behind our backs.
Or if it's just misdirection at this point, because that is a very possible tactic as well.
Right. I mean, that's a possible tactic. I mean, it's with Chalice, dare I say it, it's kind of a refreshing change for the quote villain, because he's not really he's kind of like a weird neutral antagonist at this point. He hasn't like fully committed to being an antagonist just yet. But like all up until, especially because of the Hive and you know, the Vex, we don't have a clear understanding. We don't even really know what the Vex are doing at this point. Mm-hmm. So they're their own mystery as it is. But the Hive are actively based around misdirection. Like it's all about misdirection with the Hive. Even the more simpler Hive is all about misdirection and, you know, and deferring the attention elsewhere while they do something. So like Chalice is actually kind of refreshing in the sense that it's like, he's like, here, do this. And we're like, oh, okay. He's like, okay, good job. Here's a shiny toy. And it's like, where's the trap? And he's like, no, I just wanted you to do that. I just wanted to see if you could. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm like, okay, do I agree with it? No. Do I like it? Not really. But I also find it kind of refreshing. It's just like, it's literally just someone who seems like he's bored and he's just like, I want to see if you can survive this random thing. I don't know. I think it's, in that regard, it's kind of an interesting twist because it's not a twist. It's for Destiny, it's a plot twist because it's just kind of, so far it's been kind of A, B, C, D, you know. Right.
Well, that kind of actually leads into just the primary discussion for our introduction thing in the Menagerie. Since that is the topic of tonight's chat, the gauntlet of different activities that he has us go and do you think that if he's kind of grooming us through it, if we talk about the different encounters themselves, a lot of those encounters are very similar to the raid mechanics that we've done throughout all of Destiny. The riposte or riposte, or however you're going to say it, depending on if you're an actual fencer or not, that is the same mechanic as Crota Raid. It's the sword mechanic where you have to knock off the shield. And there's a bunch of different ones where you're pulling in some of those same raid mechanics. So are we just getting trained to be more efficient with those things? And why are we being trained for that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I might have a different translation, but yeah. Because and that's kind of like, well, let's run through housekeeping notes real quick, and then we'll get into it. Because I'm curious, because there was a comment that you made earlier this week while we were talking offline that I think, to me at least, explains what's going on with those. But that might just be me being oversimplified in my understanding of it. Because I honestly, I haven't done a lot of the Menagerie, mostly because I'm not really interested in that mode. But the lore of it is it's a weird one, right? It's actually like a lot of the information is not, it's information that you can only get from like audio files. Like, I think is pretty much what you were saying and what I've kind of seen, because there's not a lot of information about the Menagerie in text. Yeah, there's no particular
unless it's
lore
bounty
entries.
related.
Yeah, but even then, it's not like a lot. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So obviously, I know obviously everyone's looking forward to the discussion. So let's just get the standard housekeeping notes out of the way, and then we'll get right into it. Last week, we discussed the extra lore topic for July, the Witcher series. If you're enjoying the show, please be sure to rate, and if you don't mind, leave us a review on iTunes or comment on the episodes on Podbean or whichever podcasting app you use to enjoy podcasts. Reviews are extremely helpful as they not only let us know what we can do better for you, but also help to continue to expand the FFC family, allowing more and more perspectives to be heard. To those of you who have already taken the time to leave us a review, thank you. As many of you are aware, Focus Fire Chat is a community in which we offer the chance to dive into lore from within various titles and mediums, with a special focus on the Destiny universe. Every Friday at about 10 p.m. Central, the podcast team gets together to stream a summary of the chosen topic for that week. The hope for this is to help encourage dives into aspects of game lore within both our Discord server and within the other communities we share the digital world with. If you're a fan of lore in all its various forms, be sure to also check out thelorenetwork.com, a central hub for content that covers a wide variety of different titles and mediums. Our full show notes for each week's topic will be posted there, so for the additional information or guest details, be sure to check out the site. Next week's topic is going to be an exploration into the lore book Nothing Ends. That being said, however, we still want to hear your thoughts about this week's topic. Be sure to weigh in over on the Discord, and don't be shy in tagging any of the team in the conversation. We can't wait to read what your thoughts are. With all that being said, I want Green to kind of walk us through, if you want, what when we were saying a preparation for stuff, are you thinking like preparation for a new raid or what? Because I guess my question is like they're copies of, and I constantly see that as a theme with Chalice. We've had that.
Well, I mean, the conversation of him assimilating things.
Yeah.
It may be just purely these are very standard game mechanics of things to do in the game, so we're going to utilize them again in a different way. Most of the things that we have in the encounters, the lamp lighting is similar to dunking in Kingsfall when you're getting ready to go into Kingsfall. So when you're in the lamp lighting thing, you're picking up these orbs and you're dunking them into the different little lamps that burst up into purple flame. We used to do that with the Kingsfall raid when you were trying to get into Kingsfall raid with the statues. You had to go kill something, pick up an orb, and run it all the way back and dunk it. Very similar mechanic there. The hunt is, I couldn't necessarily tie that back to a raid mechanic. It was just stand on lit plates, don't die, kill the thing. So in my mind, it's similar to Blind Well because we're standing on a point, making sure that things are dying around us and filling up that area with other things. Gauntlet, it's very similar to the original Gauntlet back in Leviathan because you have to run through that little race area around the circle, doing the jumping mechanics. Crystals is similar mechanic to the Last Wish with the Eye of Ribbon. So if you think the second encounter, after you do the first one, you jump into the second encounter, you get the Eye of Ribbon, and you pick up the little crystals and you have to step on the thing and aim the crystals at each other to create the triangle to break the spell for the Techian that you have to kill. Granted, you're not bursting crystals or anything like that, but you're using the same game mechanic to make it work. Riposte I talked about is the Crota Sword. The Mockery is similar mechanic to Rift back in D1, where you're slamming energy into an area. Same thing kind of as the lamp lighting. And Arcborn is also that same kind of mechanic where you're doing the... Do they even have the patrols anymore where you use your Sparrow, the Rift patrols?
No.
No, I don't think they have the ones where, like, I know the Dreaming City is where I hang out most of the time. So you have, like, the Shuro lessons that you go to, and then they have the ones where you have to go to, like, a specific point to scout. But, yeah, I don't remember them having, like, you're talking about the Speed Burst ones. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't seen them in a while, to be honest. I don't really look for them, to be honest, so I'm not really sure, but I haven't seen them pop up, for me at least.
they stayed in Destiny 1.
Yeah,
They definitely haven't come along.
that's true. I don't think many people did them because it was I don't know. I never really did those unless I was forced
In a cool
to.
fire team, they were over in a matter of moments.
That's true.
And they were easy ways to farm patrols whenever you needed to.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my feeling, Blue. I don't know how you want to go on beyond that. We talked about assimilating. Chalice assimilating cultures and concepts that he's seeing? Kind of dive into that with you.
Well, and I mean, that's like a very, that's a connection to the Roman-esque feeling that you get with the Cabal in general. The other thing, excuse me, the other thing that I don't know if we should dive into it here or if in the advanced session, but like the actual construction of the Chalice too is kind of an interesting little tidbit of watching like where that goes and where it comes from. Let me see, because I know there was some interesting references with the boss names that we'll definitely get into with
the advanced episode,
the advanced session or the advanced episode. But like just real quick, so like the whole Menagerie. The whole thing with Menagerie is this growing, this quote, growing fat with strength, go blah, 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 blah. And the way that we do that is through the Chalice of Opulence. That's the, both in the game mechanics and the lore, that's the way that you kind of get rewarded with it. If you actually look at what you're supposed to be doing with the Chalice, I don't know if people would be doing as much as they do with the Chalice, because basically... this is from the quest, is the way that the Chalice works is Chalice says, "My shadows are a chosen people selected from the best from each world I've encountered. Restore the Chalice so you may fill it to the very brim with the viscera of your enemies, and do not forget to drink your fill. How else will you grow fat from strength?" So for those who are playing, the sheltered game, viscera, let me pull this up real quick for you. Visceral is the word for this, and of course Google is trying to be helpful. So viscera or viscera is the internal organs in the main cavities of the body, especially those of the abdomen, e.g. the intestines. So visceral is actually you're being encouraged to liquefy the internal organs of your kills, put them in a chalice, and drink your fill from that. Yay. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's a very, very Romanesque, very, very old world type thing of like you imbue yourself with the strength of your kill. You eat the heart of your hunt, or whatever like that. But in the process, so like real quick to just kind of walk through the process of the Chalice, right? We initially receive a cracked Chalice, which we are then basically told, hey, this is a good way to grow fat from strength, but you need to fix it. You need to prove yourself. This is all in the invitation. And so we are tasked with finding fragments of this Chalice, and you do this by defeating Cabal on Nessus. Once you've obtained, I think it's 10 fragments, you are then tasked with acquiring something that you can use as an adhesive. Basically, you're repairing this Chalice. Literally, you're rebuilding the Chalice. And we're tasked with using Vex Radioloria to use as an adhesive. Now, we're going to come back to that because there's a couple weird things that I don't think I've seen anybody mention about that particular component. So you have to defeat Vex with melee kills to harvest the juicy centers, if you will. And then basically when you combine the adhesive, you get a thing called the Mended Chalice. And in order to actually further repair it, so that's not even the actual Chalice, that's just the Mended Chalice. So you now have the fragments that you've kind of patched together and glued with the Radioloria fluid. And in order to progress further, this is where we have to go get Imperials, which is the currency that they introduced with the entire, DLC or the Season of Opulence. And the way that we get our first infusion of Imperials is that we have to defeat a Cabal Colossus that is identified as the Sheotet Partisan, which is a callback that might be interesting. We can talk about that in a little bit, within the Conflux Lost Sector. And so once you defeat that Colossus, you will go and, do the Lost Sector. you go and open the cache, and you get, I think it's like 500 Imperials. You take your chalice back to Werner, and then Werner does his magic, and that's when you get the base Chalice of Opulence. So, and then going forward, every improvement to the chalice is acquired through the use of those Imperials. So that's, that's pretty basic. Everyone knows that's kind of there. However, after you get the base chalice, in order to even improve upon it further, you have to go up to the Menagerie. You have to do a run through the Menagerie at least once before you can, acquire it. Radiolord Fluid's Gorilla Glue. I just saw that at the corner of my eye. That's funny. But it's like the chalice. So the chalice is basically it's a focus. It's a tool through which you are literally taking a blood sacrifice of your enemies and imbuing yourself with their life force. Like that's what it is. It's the ancient tradition of consuming and of imbibing the strength of those that stood against you. In a way, it is kind of.
Would you liken that to the sword logic?
I was just about to say it's kind of like a variation of it, except it's much more physical, right? Sword logic is much more concerned with light, the spiritual essence, the spiritual viscera, if you will. Whereas this is much more. This is actually physically, this is the strength. You are growing physically fat from the strength of your kill. You are consuming that which you have killed. You are consuming that which you have defeated and overcome. And that's very in line with Chalice. Chalice is very, very focused on the taste is impeccable. The richness of the royal wine. All
way
this
he
stuff.
Describes Nessus is
right.
Absolutely creepy.
Right,
the
and
wine
it's
made from Nessus.
Right, and I mean, he even gets in an argument with Jairus in the lore about how Jairus, like he's talking about the royal wine that's made from Jairus's home world, and he's like, and Jairus is like, I don't find it that tasty, and he's like, what? You're a fool! Like he's like, they're just doing banter, and like, but I mean, like that's the thing to Chalice is this whole concept of that grotesque hedonism, that grotesque overindulgence. The opulence is really a very, very accurate term for Chalice. But the other thing is like it's also really in line with the Cabal. We have that called out in Destiny 1. Cabal are not spiritual. They are not people who have a concept of ghost. That's why with the Cabal definition of a ghost is a dead person. Like that's it. Like they don't you have the hive and you have, I mean, the Vex are kind of like the hive mind, not in that sense, but it's like a network. It's a very network based hive, or very, very focused on, the ascendant realm, the spiritual realm. And then you have the Cabal, who are very pragmatic, very, very Roman. They're very, I mean, not in the Roman sense of mythology, but in the Roman sense of this is what we need to do to get this done, and ... like very physical, very pragmatic in that sense. And so you see that translation would be not necessarily the best word, but like that interpretation of the concept of sword logic, or interpretation of the final shape, if you will, through the Cabal's eyes. This actually makes a lot of sense that this would be what you see in it. And I think with the Menagerie, to kind of tie that back in, the Chalice again is that focal talisman, whatever word you want to throw in there. It's the linchpin that is connecting it all. And so the challenge of the Menagerie is simply a offering from Chalice to our guardian to not just prove ourselves through the might of combat, might is right, but it's also a way to continue growing. It's basically him providing us with a meal, if you will, for our strength. It's the way that he sets the table for those that he sees as shadows. And I'm curious, honestly, if that's not something that the other shadows actually went through as well.
Interesting. What do you think, Winky?
It's all a bit above my pay grade. It's
No
I'm not
worries.
100% sure, to be honest. Like, does it... We were touching on sword logic versus Chalice logic.
Mm-hmm.
The light has its own logic of
Mhm.
kill lots of things, get stronger slowly, basically. Or am I wrong about that?
No, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. It's very akin to. I find it kind of funny. It's very akin to playing a video game.
Yes.
You gather experience and you strengthen and sharpen your blade against the experience of overcoming challenges. I know a lot of people have compared the traveler's logic or the guardian's logic and sword logic, and I think for the big sake of it, it comes down to the intent is kind of where I see a difference with it. Like sword logic, the hive logic is very egocentric. It's very self-focused and building the self up, whereas the guardians are very allocentric. They're very, group. It's all about the pack mentality versus the single hunter mentality.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a fair summary of what the light does as well.
Yeah, so I'd liken the sword logic more to a Dark Souls RPG,
Okay.
but in a hardcore fashion. So one life, go as far as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the light, just for a different point of perspective, the light is keep going until you get it right. That's my view on their approaches.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Blue, is there any other basic information about the Menagerie, like the very overarching, not going into super detail, that we want to touch on before wrapping the introduction episode?
I mean, I think so.
Because there's so much we can go into in the deep aspects of it.
I'm trying to think.
It's the hard thing. So we didn't talk about the bosses here. We talked about the encounters. I'm having the problem of assuming that everybody knows how the encounters work, which we can get into more in the advanced episode if need be.
I mean, I'd almost also ask, and this is because honestly, I am one of the ones that do not know how the encounters work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I've run it like once, and I was like, nope, not doing that again. Because I don't like being forced into small. Anyways, I wasn't a fan of the mechanics, which is not a surprise to really anybody who's probably listened to me more than once. I love the story, and I think that it's really cool, but I haven't noticed anything that's like missing necessarily because I don't understand the mechanics. So I'm just curious, like that'll definitely be a conversation we can have in the advanced session, because I'm curious if there is something that, kind of explains. So I know with like one of the big things that kind of was glaring to me is the Arcborn situation. But that's again, because of a lore connection, because Chalice is a dirty liar.
Thought you were going to say something else.
There was another word in my head. Anyways, I think the other thing is, and we'll get into this with the Lost Lore in the advanced session, but like just like a really basic meaning of what Menagerie is, because I know I made a comment about, with the words that are being used, this kind of makes sense. A menagerie is really, in modern parlance, it's a collection of wild animals that's kept in captivity for exhibition. It's literally a circus of types. Now, the historical notes, like I said, I'm going to get into. That's actually the Lost Lore. That will be coming up later. Is the historical growth of that term? It actually has a really fascinating connection to what we see from a mechanic standpoint, I think, as well. But like that's a cool kind of thing, because I think it does a pretty good job just in the basic definition of kind of showing what it is. Like what is this? Why do we have people who have reactions to Menagerie before they even step foot into it? Like why do I? Because I knew, like, I don't understand the mechanics of it, but I know what it is going into it, or I knew what it was going into it, because the name kind of gave it away. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, it's like, oh, okay, this is so we're going to see this. And we did see that. Like, it was like the mini games that are in it, or I refer to them as mini games, the challenges that are in it, all that stuff fall in line with what a menagerie actually is historically. It's an exhibition for the entertainment of nobility. And so, that's what it is. And then if you look at that and you take a step back and you say, okay, why does Chalice doing this? Well, Chalice is fascinated with entertainment. You saw that even back before he became obsessed with the end of everything, because that was one of the things that he did with Gaul, with the Colosseum. And again, it's also something that's very akin to the Roman theme. Interesting factoid, again, I'll get into this, but interesting factoid is the Romans actually didn't have the word menagerie. That was not a term that the Romans used for this. They would have animal displays in the Colosseum or in gladiatorial combat, but they didn't refer to them as menagerie. Menagerie was a term that didn't come about until several centuries later. But like that idea of combat display for entertainment and betting on I think was it the Gauntlet is the one where you have to like run through stuff. That was something that was very, very common within gladiatorial combat, and so this is all very in theme with what Chalice and the Cabal do. This is their thing, and so that's why when you started talking about like you're seeing a lot of the mechanics from other raids, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense because they're reenacting these battles. They're actually doing battle reenactments in his theater. That's what he's doing. He's entertaining he's entertaining himself and maybe some other people with the battle reenactments. I mean, for anyone who's interested, go look up the history of battle reenactments within the Colosseum in Rome. It's fascinating what that place is able to do. Just real quick, they filled it up with salt water to reenact a naval battle, and they had actual ships in the Colosseum. They built this thing where it was actually capable of being a miniature ocean, and they had legit naval battles on it just for reenactment, just for the entertainment of the crowds. And that's like, that was a common thing, was this like reenactment of battles. That's how they taught their populace about the greatness of Rome, is, they would have the reenactments of battles within it. And so you're kind of sitting here and you're looking at the menagerie and it's like, that's kind of what's going on here, because you're expected to overcome the challenge in these different encounters. And you're like, oh, hey, you overcame this. Show people how you overcame it using the knowledge from those mechanics. And that's where I'm seeing the assimilation kind of to tie back into the Rome. I think that the menagerie is really just a theater for Chalice. And he's also,
but if anybody else is watching.
Right. But I mean, at the moment we know that he's watching, but we have the entire, like, there's references to entire Scion courts. There's references to other nobility. Sometimes, there's definitely other characters that are in play, and it's not something that is it's not, what am I trying to say? It would not be unheard of, or would not be a surprise to me. Sorry, I don't know why this sentence is bugging me. It would not be a surprise to me if Chalice is using our displays within the menagerie as a source of entertainment and gambling to other creatures or beings of import to him, because that's what he would do with Gaul in the Colosseum. He would force his political enemies to bet against Gaul, knowing full well that Gaul was going to win. And so, that's where you kind of see. And then the entire concept of rewarding your gladiators, that's also not historically inaccurate. That happened all the time. If a gladiator did well, they would be rewarded with a particular woman or a particular new set of armor. It was, and gladiators who did well, even though they were slaves, they could have better lives than the general population. I mean, they were the equivalent of a rock star, if they did well, if they were very
locked into a contract.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, and literally they don't really have a choice, right? It's like, if you don't go in here, you're going to get killed. Like you're either going to die or you're going to get, you're going to die either way. Do you want a chance to, at least take out a few people and maybe get some fame in the sense, Spartacus? I think that name might ring a few bells out there. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like, to me, it's just, I see a lot of the Roman influence within the Menagerie, and I like it, but I don't know.
What do you think, Winky? Is there anything about the Menagerie that stands out to you as far either mechanic wise, story wise, theory wise, anything? Chalice, I'm with you in the fact that I am not a huge fan of Chalice lore, so that aspect is kind of like but there are things about Menagerie that I find interesting.
Like what exactly?
Well,
if you don't mind me turning the question around onto you for a moment.
So what Blue was saying, the concept of recreating some of the same battles and doing them in an interesting new flavor, new way, and pushing us. In some ways, we're also cleaning the Leviathan for him by getting rid of all these combatants, but we're being pushed through very particular way. It pushed through it in very particular ways. It's not just we can go in and kill it in any way we want to. He's having us do these things because with certain mechanics, imitating certain other things, and it makes me wonder, like Blue was saying with the whole Colosseum tie, if it is literally just him entertaining himself by having us recreate our exploits in his way.
Yeah, I'd never really put the two together, to be honest. I'm probably in the middle crowd where I didn't get to play as much as everybody else before the population dropped off. But you mentioned that one of the encounters you thought was similar to Rift,
or Blindwell. It would have been the
Mockery.
Mockery is one of them, and then there's another one that is very similar. Let me pull back up. Arcborn, you also have to slam, even though you're gathering the little beams and whatnot.
I'd never really noticed the similarities to the Rift mechanic or the King's Fall opening mechanic either. But I'm not 100% sure on what I feel about the Menagerie. It's I've sort of gone into there with the approach that I believe the Guardian has, where it's just a quest for loot.
Yeah.
It's I go in there, do as I'm told, come out with a shiny new weapon. And
that's very true.
That's what I believe has been a major drive for the Guardian.
Stepping away from the lore a little bit, do you think that the removal of the chest farm has kind of killed the game type a little bit?
Yes. No, without a doubt. We've seen it. I've seen it in my clan. I used to have people online late at night when I got on who would still be up for a couple of rounds, but I haven't done Menagerie since the patch now because nobody else is interested. And it's only really worth doing the heroic version if you're up to the light level of the heroic version.
Yeah, I've yet to actually try the heroic version. Is there any difference in it, or is it just purely don't die?
It's pretty much just don't die. Obviously, at the end of it, you are 10 to 20 light levels under-leveled by force. But you need to not die and perform well enough to get to the boss.
Okay. And the bosses are the same and everything?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no difference there.
Nice. That's not too bad.
Everything you learned in the normal version is applicable to the heroic version.
Which of the items, I'm trying to think, the runes, which of the items were you going for the most? Were you an Austringer type person, Dust Rock, Beloved?
I started with an Austringer, but then I got the apparent god roll for PvP on my first one, so I didn't really know what to do for this, so I just started collecting them all to add to my collections, and I've done all but I think the Titan and Hunter armor.
Nice.
But I wasn't really using it for hunting for god rolls, especially not now, considering that you only get one chance per 20 minutes.
Yeah, if you make it through.
Unless it's a Menagerie exclusive weapon, it's not worth the time.
Not anymore.
No.
All right. Blue, do we want to kind of roll into the final thoughts and shoutouts of everything before switching over to our advanced episode?
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. I think that would be good. So
All right.
Final thoughts. I mean, I feel like I've expressed my final thoughts. I don't want to take up any more speaking time if I don't have to, because I feel like I talked a lot there at close to the end. So I'll let Green go. Save me, Green.
This is normal. Final thoughts on Menagerie. Menagerie is an interesting game type that allows you to experience a lot of different raid mechanics. If you are not a raider, this is a way to learn the raid mechanics. Granted, it's not in the same situations, but there are different things that you have to do on a regular basis in raids that show up in this. It is a good way to do that. It is a good way to learn that. It is not a good way to farm anymore, but I don't find it completely horrendous to play. It's not something I'm going to go into consistently, personally. Winky, final thoughts.
It has definitely become boring and killed off.
Mm-hmm.
To be very blunt about it, it had the opportunity to be that PvE repeatable activity that everybody sort of wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And we've been wanting something similar since the Prison of Elders in House of Wolves.
Do you think if they would have had no chest farm at the very beginning, would we be this salty about farming for specific roles or farming for specific weapons?
I know that there are a lot of salty people in regards to that, but I don't think everybody is. I understand a bit of why they did it, but if we'd never had the chest farm to begin with, I think maybe it's a 50-50 chance, isn't it, whether it was just going to never take off or if people would still be playing it semi-regularly now, just doing their 1 or 2 a week to have a go at those roles.
Yeah.
We've tasted the sugar coating and now we don't want normal bread. So
that's true. Gosh, we want that cinnamon roll.
No, they have fairy
exactly right.
The fairy bread. Isn't it fairy bread? Or fairy
bread?
Yes.
Is that
yeah.
I think it's fairy bread, yeah.
What is this?
Yeah. It's bread, butter, hundreds and thousands.
It's a lot of sugar.
Okay.
It's like
it's a favored kids party treat for a kids
party.
Yeah, it's
okay.
I think it's predominantly in Australia, right? Isn't that that's where I heard from it or about it is from we had a couple Australians in the clan way back when we were still in D1 and they were talking about it. They were also trying to convince us to go out and get Vegemite, which I still don't believe anybody. I'm like, I'm not going near it. But they were telling about it's basically like bread, butter, and then I think the best example that I got was like it's like sugar sprinkles, like the it's the sugar pellets that are terrible on cupcakes.
Sprinkles? They're just round sprinkles.
Yeah, they're just like little sugar. I'll look it up, Green. I'll send you a link. But yeah,
okay.
No, it just cracks me up because it's like, yeah, you've had fairy bread, now you don't want regular toast. The thing that I wanted to ask though, and go back to really be serious, is do you think that mechanic is or do you think the concern or the lack of interest is that even in light of the control of the outcome that the Chalice offers? Because that's the big difference, right? Is that we actually have through the Chalice, from a game mechanic standpoint, you can actually put in recipes to guarantee that you're going to get a masterwork, blah blah blah, whatever. Even in the light of that, is that, I mean, obviously the interest is what it is, but with that being the case, is that something that we're just seeing the time it takes is too great, or is it? I'm just curious where the lack of interest comes from.
I hadn't thought about that, but I think you're right. If with that control, if we'd never had the loot chest glitch, the control definitely would have been a prolonging factor in keeping Menagerie alive for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, like that was me.
Now,
to me, it's like if you run Prison of Elders, you're like, you had the RNG of like, which it could pay off really good, but often it was like, yeah, here's a blue engram, the
right.
blue engram.
But I can run 3 lost sectors in the EDZ, farming for a dust rock in the time it takes to do 1 Menagerie. Now, or I can do like
so
5 or 6.
Really,
yeah. So
it's probably better for armor more than anything, because I believe Menagerie can roll enhanced. I think.
Yeah, they can roll. You can roll. I think it's like 4 different sets, and then like the recipe, you can get some pretty good combos going with the recipes with the Chalice. And so I'm just curious. It seems to me, looking from an outsider's perspective, looking in, it's like, okay, so is it that it doesn't have the right recipes, or is it that it's just taking too long to get to the end result? Where's the balance tipping? To me, I think that might be a conversation also to have offline. But to me, I'm just kind of like, I'm looking at the logarithm of what's all going into the disinterest. And I agree. I think, the chest glitch or chest, whatever you want to refer to it as, I think that kind of spoiled a lot of people's taste to it, because now you know what you're missing instead of, not ever even knowing about it. But I'm just curious. I was just personally curious, is there a way to redeem it? Like, is basically where I'm getting at. Is there a way to take the information here and recreate it with like a less of a grind or something?
If they wanted to redeem Menagerie, I think the best way to do that would to maybe add a 4th slot to the Chalice that lets you pick 1 perk.
Oh, that would be cool.
Okay. Yep.
So you get like Dust Rock with Slide Shot or something like that. If you put a certain rune in, that would be interesting.
That would be a fun, I can see that too. Because I think it's also really cool if you start, like, because I was just going down the rabbit hole of all the recipes and like all the cool different things, and we'll get into that in the advanced session. But like, it's kind of, it's pretty impressive the degree of control that you actually have over what you get. Like, I'm like, this is like, you can get some really specific recipes going for stuff.
Yeah. Including with armor, you can even choose your stats on it.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You can do stats, elemental resistance, and I think to a degree the mod, like the flavor of mod. Yes, in the masterwork. Yeah.
No, mods are a random check.
Yes. Yeah. That's
entirely, and you can slot them yourself afterwards by choice. But
that's right.
Choose.
It's the set, so you get the set. You get I think it's the armor stat bonus, and then you also can do masterwork, and then also the elemental resistance. You can determine that as well. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I think it's oh gosh, who was it?
That was the masterwork, wasn't it? The elemental resistance.
Well, it's like handling, reload, velocity, or stability. Oh no, that's weapon. Sorry, I have that. Sorry, I meant is the
elements.
Yeah. But no, I like that, because like I have the full recipe guide that they posted over on Reddit, and it's an impressive spreadsheet. Like, I was looking through it, and I was like, just from a mechanic standpoint, the way that this information has been gathered and assimilated is just boggles my mind, the amount of information. And so like, and there's a lot of things where it's like, if you put this rune in this slot and this rune in this slot, and and they've got like the evolution path of the best way to grow the Chalice and what all that. I'm like, it's got a lot of control in it, but it sounds to me like it's a matter of the time put in does not warrant the benefit coming out. And I think that also might be part of the what you guys were talking about with the appearance, the frustration that stemmed from that the exploit, glitch, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. Well, but there's also the 300 seconds they give you, but anyway.
Well, because that was okay.
But
so in regards to that spreadsheet, Braytech.org has also made an interactive one where you just pick the weapon and it
nice.
That's cool.
I can give you the link to that one if you want.
Yeah, if you
we can put those in show notes.
I was about to say, shoot that over in the Discord and I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, all right. So that's a wrap on the intro session. So you guys will hear this first thing next week, and then what am I trying to say?
Wrapping up the show. Thank you for listening to this introduction session with a fractured Winky.
Green's so much better at this.
Green has done a lot of voiceover stuff anyway, but We can find you all over the place as a Fractured Winky. Is that correct?
100%.
Heck yes. All right. So, I don't know how to close off this one. We still don't have a sign off. Blue, are you?
And that's how the cookie crumbles.
Oh no.